Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about Act 8 Chapter 3 beta invites and beta tests, and also some of my own personal hopes for the content, because it is absolutely no secret that I think that story content is just incredibly stale and kind of boring versus compared to how it used to be, especially since Kabam went to their 663 same nodes the entire path type of strategy. Uh, I think me and a lot of other players have started to look at story content as something that you just quickly run through, get your rewards. That's the primary reason why you do it, and then basically forget about it and never really go back to it. For all its downfalls in terms of difficulty level and everything else, I do believe that Act 6 as whole is so much more iconic. I can still recall most of the bosses, most of the fights, most of the paths in Act 6, with them having different nodes and, just having much more identity. And I basically hardly remember any of the paths in Act 7 and Act 8, and I definitely couldn't differentiate each individual quest. Right, but that being said, I did get my invite as well yesterday, and we do have 1 week to basically sign in. And then from June 14th till June 28th. So this time, first things first, Kabam, I believe, kind of learned, because in past, I think it was 1 week, it might have been 2 as well. But at the very least, the upside of it is that it will also be something to do when the Battlegrounds go off, because current season finishes at June 21st, and the season 9 should be starting at June 28th. So from 21st to 28th, we will not have Battlegrounds active, which kind of leads me to think that I will probably end up paying this beta more attention, because 8.2 beta was the first beta that I got invited to, and I barely played it. I did like one completion run off it to gauge the general difficulty, and that is it. I just did not really care for it, even though it did reward you some 6-star shards, which again didn't seem as big of a deal as it previously has been. I'm not entirely sure what the rewards are they going to be giving us this time around, but given the fact that we will have some time off Battlegrounds, it might be something better to do than grind Arena, even though Arena is probably still more profitable. But yeah, that being said, let me know whether you guys have gotten your invite. Do you plan on playing through it? What do you expect from it? For me personally, I would absolutely love if Kabam actually shakes things up, especially given all of that messaging with why revive nerfing was needed, stuff like that, so they can create this fine, bespoke, highest quality content brought to us by Swiss Alps. And it always makes me kind of chuckle when they say things like that, and then we get the same 6 quests, 6 paths, 6 fights on each path. Every single one of those fights have exactly the same nodes. It doesn't scream a lot of attention to detail and bespoke content, stuff like that. It seems minimum effort required to kind of like fit stuff on it already pre-existing template. So I do hope that we see quests with 7 paths and maybe 8 paths, and some quests maybe with 5 paths, and some of them longer, some of them with 5 fights, some of them with 8 fights. Why not? And perhaps, maybe if Kabam is feeling extremely adventurous, they can actually have different nodes on the path, or at least some differences, so that every fight isn't exactly the same, and we actually need to pay attention and kind of like look up and look ahead. So I don't know. But that being said, my realistic expectation is they will introduce some new weapon style node. There's going to be, you're going to have to do something else to disable the weapon or something. And that's it. And then they're just going to reuse 8.2, 8.1, and 7.4 and whatnot nodes, and that's likely going to be it. Let me know what you guys think. Is Kabam going to actually take things up in story content? Because, yeah, at the moment, and this is a purely personal feeling. It's not that playing through story content is unenjoyable per se. It's just unremarkably unmemorable and dull, at least to me. There is 6 lanes. Each lane basically asks you to select a class, whether you need to use science or skill or mystic champions or something. And then you kind of run through it and then you forget about it and you never go back. You never really scout the entire lane. You just check the nodes for the first champions. And yeah, it's story content definitely has changed its meaning and what it represents. And again, I do not necessarily think that Act 6 difficulty level was the best thing in the world for the game, but there is no doubt in my mind that looking back at it, I'd much rather play every chapter as it was in Act 6. As in, like, I at least remember that it might have been harder, and I know that a lot of people look at, something being harder as an objectively bad thing in a game. I don't. I personally like tough and challenging things. Don't necessarily think it has the hardest content should be something that's mandatory. Obviously, I do think that, stuff like Eternity of Pain, Grandmaster Gauntlet is where the hardest stuff should be. But at the same time, I don't think that what Kabam's currently doing with story content is the best thing ever. Because they turned story content from something that was major and big and massive into something that just isn't, that comes out and you run through it and then you leave it behind you and then you go and play Battlegrounds, Alliance Quest, Alliance Wars. I, I, I I agree that you can't never ever please everybody, and I'm not saying that my personal preferences are more important than yours or anybody else's, but at the same time, don't like what Kabam has done with Act 7 and Act 8. Yeah, sure, it's relatively fun to do some stupid big damage numbers and tease some things, but it's just kind of unsatisfying in a sense. It's as if you're playing basketball, but you have some sort of real life cheat on where you can't miss basically, and you just shoot in every single throw. It's kind of what story content is. It just takes away that thrill. Like when Act 8.3 beta is gonna come out, unless Kabam has changed something, I will never be questioning, whether I'll complete it or whether I'll explore it or whether it's going to be like a really hard thing. I know it's not going to be. I know that whatever they bring up, unless they drastically change, I'm just gonna run through in 2 days once the content actually goes live, and that's gonna be it. With Act 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, I didn't know that. I was worried. I was excited. I expected challenge, There were many parts where I started it and I had to quit out to change my team, adjust my strategy, or drop, multiples of revives or something. And now, yeah, as soon as this content is gonna come out, I can reliably predict now that I can run through it. If I'm gonna use any items, it's likely going to be because I'm either A, extremely lazy, or B, probably because I'm gonna be learning the final boss. And that's it. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, either way. Also, the final topic that I wanted to discuss is when can we actually expect Act 8.3? And here we see that it's going to finish at end of June. That means that July is definitely well too early to expect it. August would be possible. Earliest, realistically, I would expect 8.3 to come in September, personally. If I would have to make that bet, I would say that Act 8.3 will be landing in September, most realistically. Could technically be August or could also be October, which would be, less likely, but I think most likely place for 8.3 is going to be in September. Let me know about that as well. When do you guys think Act 8 is going to start? Either way, that's it for this video, and I will catch you guys soon. Bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about